Aether Vial on 3. I can't imagine those being bad news for Mike Growse. I mean, that's where you want to be.
Absolutely. He has two Harbinger of the Tides. I'm sorry, not Harbinger of Tides. The Wave Masters in hand. Which, if he gets to 4 on one of these Aether Vials, that could be a huge game.
Right. Now, I've watched these Merfolk deck not tap out for like their Merfolk every turn,
Mm-hmm.
and I just don't understand. I feel like you want to start, you want to flood the board, you want to make your presence. Um, Justice is going to go up to 5, potentially 6 if he makes his land drop next turn, which could yield him a Primeval Titan.
5 is the magic number for Through the Breach as well. If Mike Grouse has a Curse Catcher for this one, that's a big deal.
What just happened? Oh, he had a fetch land as well.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So here is the 6th land, and this Lord of Atlantis is going to catch a lightning bolt. All right. So lots of mana in play for Justice. Well, not a lot of action. Mike's going to go to 2 and 3 on his Aether Vials. So 2 is the most populous number in the Merfolk deck.
Absolutely.
So I imagine we'll land on 2 and 4.
I know he has 1 Reejerey in hand.
Alright, Reejerey in play.
We have a Reejerey trigger that he's trying to figure out, I believe. Nope. Let's see what he can pull here.
See, this is where I feel like you want to cast your spells every you want to use all your mana every turn. And he's got a Spreading Seas in hand that I believe he's probably slow rolling for a Valakut.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Um,
Especially having seen this.
Right, so Justice doesn't have
he might be trying to play around Scape Shift because he hasn't seen
right. We know he doesn't have Scape Shift, but Mike has to be thoughtful of Scape Shift.
And Scape Shift, the magic number is 7.
Which we're gonna see here.
Potentially.
So what you're seeing here is he's wisely identifying that the Lords are the most powerful cards on the board.
Absolutely.
And they're the ones catching the lightning bolts.
All right, so what he's done here with an Aether Vial on 4 is given himself access to these instant speed Master Waves.
Which can really mess up Justice's math on, how many turns do I have to try and win the game.
I think he knows.
So Mike's end step, he's going to put a Lord into play here. Oh, I'm sorry, that's a Harbinger of the Tides.
And that's game. That'll do it.
Yep.
So I didn't get a good look at what was in Justice's hand. He must not have drawn it Through the Breach or any of the operative cards.
Yeah, even a Primeval Titan there, to get a Valakut would have helped him mop up the board a little bit.
Sure. So Interestingly, Growse won't know that Reames is on Breach. He might just still put him on Scape Shift. I don't know that it changes all that much from his sideboarding perspective. He has access to 2 negates, 2 dispels. He didn't see any islands, so I imagine it's just the negates coming in. And then trying to be as fast as possible.
On Justince's side, he's got a pretty diverse sideboard, but nothing that's amazing in this matchup. His sideboard consists of Guttural Response, Relic of Progenitus, Sudden Shock, Crumble to Dust, Ancient Grudge, Obstinate Bailout, and Blood Moon. The only card I see that I would really be excited to bring in is Sudden Shock.
Yeah, Sudden Shock can be good.
The split second there prevents... It lets you get a Lord down without Mike being able to activate an Aether Vial to protect it from, 2 damage.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's
and
interesting
so, like,
sideboard.
it guarantees killing the Lord. He's got 3 of those, so I imagine those are going to come in. And the outs, I would imagine, would be the Worldspine Worm. And he's got this card, Dramatic Entrance. Which, can we put that one on the screen? Because I'm not super familiar with that card. And the role it plays in this deck.
Sure. Yeah, I think Grouse's outs are probably just a couple of Vapor Snags. He didn't see any creatures.
Oh, Dramatic Entrance is just an instant where you can put a green creature from your hand into play. So I imagine that Dramatic Entrance comes out here. As it's just another card to get counterspelled. I mean, you play that card, Mike has to know the end result of that guy resolving is not going to be good.
Absolutely. But here's the thing. Growse didn't see any big creatures. So he could very easily still be putting Justice on Scape Shift.
Sure.
I mean, you could draw some context clues with the way that Justice was fetching and getting, like, actual mountains.
Right.
That he's probably not on Scape Shift, but I don't know if Mike is on that level.
Right.
So this should be interesting to see how he's sideboarded. It doesn't change a whole lot in how he sideboards. It changes a lot in how he plays and how he sequences his plays here.
Okay, sure. The card that Justice wants to see that we didn't see him cast game 1 is Anger of the Gods. That card's in the main deck.
Oh, yeah.
It's shown up in a lot of main decks here in Modern recently.
It's a very good card right now.
I know the Jund decks have 3 in the main.
Mm-hmm.
Because this Dredge Menace is just everywhere.
Oh, absolutely. We got to see that last round.
If you get to Anger the Gods them when they have any kind of board presence, it takes a lot for them to come back from that. So
Sure.
Anger the Gods at its peak right now in Modern. Let's see if it can pay off here for Justice against this Merfolk deck.
Another multi-Aether Vial hand for Mike Growse. It looks like he's brought in the Spellskite, which is good against the bolts that we saw. Also very good against Valakut.
Oh, sure. What you can do here is if Justice were to have like a multi-trigger Valakut turn, is you can redirect all of the Valakuts to the Spellskite, and it reduces the damage by 1. So even if you're paying life, it's dealing you 2 instead of 3. Right. I've seen people live through some pretty massive Scape Shift turns with the Spellskite.
It's not a bad card in this matchup, but I think if he knew for certain that he was on Breach and not Scape Shift, it wouldn't be in.
Sure. It's one of those things where, like, I think that card just comes in against red decks.
Okay. Just, like, eats bolts?
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. Being able to surprise Aether Violet in to, like, actually eat a lightning bolt is pretty good, too.
Right.
And it looks like you were right. Justice did bring in at least one Sudden Shock, which is likely to eat a Lord here, as I see multiple Lords in Mike's hand.
Sure. Yes. See, now, if I were Justice, what I would do here is I would, instead of these beautiful, I mean, the mountains are beautiful, don't get me wrong. I'd be on these snow-covered mountains.
Because it makes people think of Scred.
Yeah, because the Scred deck was real. So, like, you could totally change the way people play against you for very little consequence.
Yeah, I don't know if...
It probably cost you some money to acquire the cards, but...
Sure. I mean, they're no more expensive than his current mana base.
Right.
I like this a lot.
You adapt, moving through some cards.
Absolutely. So he had a choice there of playing a Lord, playing an Aether Adept, or a Silvergill Adept, or an Aether Vial. I definitely like this one.
I also like this activate the thing every turn.
Yeah, if you get in the habit of that, you never miss a trigger.
Right. There's a Vondervine hub.
Making sure to reveal the same Merfolk.
And play the same Merfolk. Oh man, Spell Pierce is in the
Spell Pierce not helping here.
So this situation I talked about, Mike has a Lord in hand, but he cannot respond to the sudden shock. It's got split second.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't help him here. Aether Vial can't be activated right now. Yeah, so if you read the split second text there, as long as the spell's on the stack, you can't add anything to the stack. Triggers happen?
Sure. Triggers happen. You can play mana abilities, which is sometimes relevant.
And you can morph.
Like you could activate a Nykthos in response.
Right. There's a corner case of morph as well.
Yeah.
Oh man, just the full cost search for tomorrow.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Earns the Spell Pierce. Is that the right? Am I naming the right card there? Spell Pierce.
Yep, it's Spell Pierce.
Okay, right. I always get those spell snare pierce, shrivel. There's a bunch of spell names.
So what happened there? Justice was thinking about lightning bolting, but realized that once it was Spellskite that was revealed, he didn't have an opportunity to lightning bolt there.
Oh right, so yeah, you have to make that choice while Aether Vial is on. The Aether Vial activation is on the stack. And so if he says okay, then Mike reveals the card.
Right.
So it's pretty important to, especially in Modern where every card counts so much, to read the cards very carefully so that you don't let something happen that you don't want to happen.
Absolutely. And speaking of things that you don't want to happen, Mike Growse would be in bad shape if there was an Anger of the Gods here.
I would concur. I don't know if that card's on Mike's radar right now, or if I think getting to 15 damage is on Mike's radar. That's where he's really at right now.
Absolutely, but when you play these aggressive decks, you have to have a primary plan and a secondary plan. And being able to rebuild after a Wrath, especially if you're against this red deck and you know that Anger of the Gods is a very real card right now.
Here he comes in. Lots of damage coming.
This is 8. Looks like we're going to chump here.
He's going to take 5 to
Sack
10.
before damage. Go up to 5 lands. So here's where things get interesting. Mike knows that if his opponent's on Scape Shift, he's not in any danger of losing next turn. However, if he knows that he's on this Breach deck, he's going to have to answer to a Through the Breach or a dramatic entrance on the next turn because he has the mana. In which case, playing this Master of the Waves to have creatures to sacrifice to Emrakul's Annihilator trigger is very relevant.
Sure. He's chosen the Aether Vial route. Here's the thing I find interesting about the matchup as we're watching it right now. This, you would think...
There's the anger.
There's the anger. Alright. You would think a red-green deck would have way more interaction with a creature deck than it has had so far, than we watched.
Sure.
But since Justince is kind of playing this sort of combo situation, it doesn't. We're watching Mike be the aggressor here against the two most aggressive colors in Magic.
Sure. And Merfolk is a very aggressive deck, so I mean this is expected, but we'll see if Justince can follow up this Anger of the Gods with any meaningful interaction.
He's got 2 cards. I mean, no matter what they are, if they're Tribe Elders, you play them to block. We're gonna go up here.
I think at least one is a prime time.
Oh man, that's got to be frustrating to sit on 5 lands with a prime time.
Another Master Waves. Playing out the second Master Waves is huge. 2 more elementals. He
And all
left
the
a
elementals
damage
get
on the table, I think.
bigger, right? He left 1 down. He could have him at 5.
We'll see if that comes back.
I don't think it matters.
The difference between 5 and 6 can be relevant.
We're talking about we're attacking for 13 here next turn.
Sure.
Man. And this is just being a mana short to
for
play,
several
to
turns.
play your real.
I mean, it's not
Real
really
thing.
even a mana short. He's just not drawing any of his operative cards. So he doesn't have the dramatic entrance. He doesn't have the Through the Breach.
Oh, he's got the mana. We've got a
We have the mana
stomping
for that.
ground. Yep.
All right, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mountains.
So Primetime's going to get I imagine, a Valakut and a mountain.
Right, so you get 1 shock. So he can take down one of these masters.
No, they have pro red.
Valakut
it's a land.
is
It's
a land.
You're right. This is guy running our front end. This is one of his favorite cards. He's won some serious matches playing.
All right, so that's game.
Playing this card. Yep.
All right, so not enough to stem the tide. He was 1 mana short on the operative turn the previous turn.
And Mike played through the best card against him in the matchup.
Oh, absolutely.
He won through an Anger of the Gods. I don't know what else you want. I think what we've seen here in both the matches today, we've seen that like you need the hate, but you also need to be applying pressure at the same time.
Oh, absolutely.
Just a piece of hate's just not gonna do it in this modern format. You have to be aggressive enough to mop up when you get those advantages.
Sure. Yeah, you definitely need to provide a clock. None of the hate's going to outright win you the game. You need to be able to back it up so they don't draw answers to your hate.
Concur.